Hello, everyone, and welcome to Make It Make Sense. I am Jamara.
You are jazz hands. And I am Cletus, and I'm confused. We're so excited to be in the building, man. Listen, this is a rare feat. We get to do a part two to an episode we did last week. Last week we talked about how you know it's over in a relationship, but we didn't. Because all we talked about was, men ghosting women and women being evil. So
Not at
today,
Not at all. Women are not evil. Continue.
I'm pretty sure Satan's a woman. So what we're gonna talk about today is how you actually know that it's over. So you're in a relationship and y'all have been together for whatever period of time, and it's done. And a lot of people stay in relationships beyond where they should be in it for a myriad of reasons. Some people use, we've got kids. Some it's the security of the relationship. Some is just, we've been here this long, why not?
Yeah.
Some of y'all follow your grandmama and your granddaddy and be like, well, they stayed together for 600 years. But the last 300, they weren't happy. When do you know it's time to go? So I'll say this and this is amazing because, you are in that and you can speak to it. So we'll talk from people in a church perspective.
Okay.
A lot of times a church doesn't want you ever to leave your relationship regardless.
Yeah.
Because they be like, divorce is a horrible thing.
Right.
What God put together, let no man tear asunder. But how do you, and even as somebody who's been divorced, I guess, 12, 13 times? But same guy, so it's okay. Same guy, so it's okay. How do you make that decision? And what were some of the things that led you to be like, yo, it's okay for me to leave. I know it's time to go because.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking from a woman who was married for over a decade and divorced not once, but like he said, I divorced the same man twice.
Good work. You had already had practice, so the
Yes.
second one was easy.
Yeah, very much so. So what made me make that decision was I had to do what was best for me and my children and my happiness. And I couldn't stay in a situation where it was so toxic that it was affecting me emotionally and mentally and physically. So I had to go.
So do we, because so here's the thing, how did you know though? Because you said me and my children. So from a woman's perspective, even a man's perspective, which one would take precedent? So you hear a lot of people involve everybody. But I think that the relationship between a father and children and relationship between husband and wife are two different things.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we try to consider both and whether we leave or not. And that it leads to toxicity in itself. Because if you're still in a relationship because you're like, okay, the kids need their father, you not being with the father does not make them have their father any less.
Right.
Maybe physically the time spent in the home, but we want to talk about like the quality amount of time that they have. So looking at it that way, should you even think about your kids when you make that decision? Because to me, I think that you should leave. This is just me talking. I think that you should leave when there's no passion there, when there's no feeling there, when it becomes mundane, or when it's toxic, and you feel as though there is not going to be a level of happiness with that person. Then I believe that it's best for two people to leave. When it becomes we're arguing all the time, we don't even want to be there. Because who wants to be in a loveless relationship? Like, I think that's just as bad. I think it's just as bad for two people to just be together and there is no love there.
Well, see, love to me is unconditional and it's not based upon a feeling. It's a choice, which is why I stayed as long as I did. Because it's not about a feeling or he makes me feel this way or I feel like I'm in love with this person. I made a conscious decision to stay with someone because I said I loved them and I meant it.
Yeah, but I can love you and not be with you.
Right, which is why I'm not with that person because it came to the point where it was too toxic for me to stay. But I tried to stay in a situation because I loved this person unconditionally. And it came to the point where I had to make a decision, not for my kids, but for myself.
Right. So let me ask you this. Is there a such thing as unconditional love for humans? Is there a such thing as an unconditional love for humans and interpersonal relationships? I believe I love my kids unconditionally. And I think that's the limit.
No.
I think for me,
okay,
unconditionally, for me, the limit is my kids. And so when we talking about eros love, you're not going, and I'm telling you, like, and I'm just saying this just to be honest from my perspective. You're not gonna beat me and I still love you. You're not gonna continue to mistreat me, and I still love you. You're not gonna cheat on me. I might still love you at that point, but it's not like we finna be together. Like you, sometimes when you fall in love, sometimes you got to pick yourself up out of that love.
See, I don't
so
believe
that
in
you can
falling
fall.
in and out of love, though. But yeah,
Really?
Yeah, I don't believe in falling in
So
and out
how
of
are you
love.
gonna fall? How are you gonna find
It's
somebody
a
new?
decision. 1 Corinthians 13. Unconditional love. I am making a decision. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter what the environment is, I'm making the decision to love you in this situation, in this marriage. And the only way that I'm going, for me personally, and most women, the only way that we're going to get out of that situation is if it becomes toxic on us emotionally, mentally, and physically. That's when we're going to get out. But you can't, I don't agree with the notion of falling in and falling out of love. To me, that's maybe something that I would have said in my 20s. But when you understand the mature love, the 1 Corinthians 13 love, it's a decision. You're choosing to love that person.
But that person might not be living by 1 Corinthians 1:13. That person might be
just nailed
at
it.
another part of the Bible. And so you in
And
the
that's
King
when
James.
you got an exit stage left.
Right, but so then that means that you exit stage left. So you're no longer in love. So like loving someone, and I still don't think outside of my kid, I'm trying to find a way.
So you don't feel like you would love a woman unconditionally?
Oh no, definitely not unconditionally.
Come on, Cletus.
Did I not listen?
You need that
I stand
for
behind
marriage.
it. I guarantee it. If
You
you with
need
me,
that
it's
for
not
marriage.
unconditional. There are conditions. There are definitely
What?
conditions.
What? I mean,
Every interpersonal relationship is going to be conditional. If you no longer stimulate my mind, I'm not gonna say you no longer stimulate my loins because that's different. But that's shallow to me. But if you
It's
no
waves
longer,
to it.
if you no longer stimulate my mind, if you no longer
change.
treat me well,
That can
if you
change.
beat me, if you cheat on me, if you taking me through the ringer, you stole all my money, how foolish do I look when I'm sitting there and be like, I love her regardless. You know what? She beat me to death almost. But I love her.
That's different.
And I ain't going nowhere. That's my baby.
That's different. We're not talking about being
Like, dog,
physical.
she stole all your money, man. You worked hard, built up wealth, and she blew all of it on the ponies. You know what, though? That's my baby. I love her.
I actually had a counseling session. I had a coaching session. You can book me for coaching. I had a coaching session where there was that situation where the woman, she took all the money and left.
But I love her.
But see, why you gotta
Come on back
that?
here, because that's what you sound
They're
like.
in a marriage situation. And I'm not gonna go too much into it because it's confidential.
Yeah.
But it was a reason why she did what she did, and the husband eventually did forgive her.
Oh, I might eventually forgive you. That don't mean I'm still in love with you.
What?
Love, I can do. Listen, I dated a young lady one time. I still refer to her as Satan. And I would not want anything negative to happen to her. I would not want her to walk out in front of a bus and get hit by a bus. I wouldn't want no calamity to come towards her. I wouldn't want her to be hurt. I love her in the way that you love everybody that you meet. I love people. You love her in that way. However, my heart does not skip a beat for her. There is no palpitations when I'm around her. I don't have butterflies. I do not love her in a way where I would love to say, come be in my life. Literally, physically be in my life. No, can't do it. And that's one of the ways when you know that it's done. When you do not want to be around them. When the mention of their name drives you crazy. When the sight of them is just repulsing to you. You have to leave. When they are hurting you and putting you through, we do not have to be down because we love somebody.
No, you definitely
We do that with family. I have just come to the point, I really have just come to the point, we don't get to choose who we are related to. Those are people who are forced upon us by our Dana. and people feel like, that's my cousin, I got to love him. That's my aunt, I got to love him. No, you do not have to continue to put yourself through that. You have to love them because God told you to love your neighbor. And these, of course, are my opinions, my views. You have to love them because God says love your neighbor, and that's the commandment. Love your neighbor as thyself, but you do not have to continue to subject yourself to them. So you can love somebody and not be with them.
It's called boundaries. But what you said earlier, when you were saying that if looking at them repulses you, you don't want to be around them. In a marriage, that's gonna happen. That's not a reason to get out of a divorce or to get out of a marriage and file for divorce.
So
there's
how
gonna
long?
be times where I don't like you. There's gonna be times where I don't want to look at you. There's gonna be times where I just can't stand your guts. But I still love you, and I'm not gonna get out of the marriage just because I'm having a day or a moment with you. That's not unconditional love. Now, when we get into physical altercations, that's where you draw the line, and that's where you say it's time.
So then
for
the
me to
love
go.
is not unconditional. There are conditions.
Violence and physical like altercation.
That's a condition.
That's just basically common sense. You don't sit there and let someone put
But
their
it's a
hands on
condition,
you.
so it's not unconditional.
Uh,
What you're saying is, I can do this unless you do this. Unconditional love means I love you regardless of what there
But
are
you
no
are
conditions.
not ordained or put under subjection to be physically violent towards someone and have to take
I
that.
get that, but that's one of the conditions. I still feel like, not because I'm mad at you for a day. I get mad at you for a day. I think all of us have been in a relationship, and you wake up in the morning, you're like, you know what? Why are they still breathing? I thought God answered prayer, but that doesn't mean that you get to divorce them. So I expect relationships to have highs and lows.
Yeah, waves. It's
I
waves.
definitely expect that. I know there's gonna be highs and lows. I also don't want it to look. Also don't think it should be peaks and valleys in relationships. I think what you do when you go to your counseling is you try to get those evened out. I think you try to get it to plateau a little bit. I don't think your relationship should be bipolar.
No.
So when I say we shouldn't have 4 months here,
Right.
4 months there, 4 months here. I think what you should do is, this is the baseline. Hey, we're happy, and it can go right here. Like, it can do this. I think that's representative of how relationships should be. When you start seeing it go here, then there, that's when you really need to sit down and be like, yo, look, we need to get this thing leveled out.
Communication.
But I just don't think that you should be in a relationship. I've learned this. Our time on this earth is finite. It is completely finite. So what do you decide to do? Do you spend your time with somebody that... Listen, I just don't believe we should suffer. Like, when you know you're suffering with somebody, they're not giving you what you need mentally. They're not giving you what you need physically. They're not giving you what you
shouldn't
need.
look for somebody on the outside to give you what you're supposed to have on the inside. It's not my job to make you happy. You have to be happy within yourself.
Then why are we together?
We're together because we made a decision to love each other in a marriage.
You just make it seem like we just opened a McDonald's. Like, we just went down, we like, you know what, we're going to open this McDonald's. That's why we're here. I think marriage is way more than that. I even think relationships are more than that. I think even relationships are more than that. I think that if you are in a relationship where you are not being fulfilled, where you're not being treated well, we've got to go.
That's different.
And I think that's why we have, but it's not unconditional.
What I'm saying is, I think people look at marriage through rose-colored glasses and expect and have all of these expectations of what they think a marriage is. And until you're in it and you see and experience and know what happens in a marriage, you really can't understand it until you're in it. It's not always going to be peaches and cream and we're going to stay at this and it's going to be a balance. It's so much more to it than that. And I just feel like that's why the divorce rate is so high, because people are just not willing to do the work to stay together. It's always one person who wants to work on the marriage and the other person's just kind of like, you know what, I can find somebody else. There's always going to be somebody better, more handsome, taller, smaller, prettier, whatever the case may be, than the person that you're with. It's too many people who feel like they have options, and that's why they don't want to do the work to stay with the person that they're with. That's why you have to be careful who you pick. Who you choose to spend the rest of your life with is one of the most important decisions that you will ever make in your life. So make sure that it is a God-ordained decision and not a personal decision, which was my mistake. Twice.
But you got out of there, though. He ain't love him unconditionally. All I'm saying is,
because it was not of God. It was of Jamara's choice, not God.
Yeah, so just in case God mess up a little bit, y'all don't be afraid to leave. That's all I'm telling y'all. Don't be afraid to roll on out of there if God won't on his A game that day. He sit there. And to make it make sense, never trust a big butt and a smile. Y'all can't see Jamara because she's sitting down, but she's definitely smiling. She is untrustworthy. Look, Look, we have fun, man. Be with us again, man. If y'all relationship is still together, check us out again next week, man, for another episode of Make It Make Sense. But until then, follow us on our many social media platforms. You can find Jamara at
Jamara J. Smith on YouTube and Instagram.
Yeah, be a part of the JAMFAM. So it's Jam-A-Ra. That's how you spell it. I'm just, because some people ain't going to be able to spell your made-up Negro name. And you can find me on any social media platform at Cletus Comedy. Look, we'll be back again next week with another episode of Make It Make Sense, where only the man's side matters.
No, minds matter too. Bye.